Today I am going to continue reading my book, The Myth of Budda. I am starting with chapter 7 and reading chapter 7 and 8. I hope you guys enjoy it. Chapter 7, Violet Returns. She was hungry after her long journey. As she walked on her bird legs, she searched the ground for tasty bugs and worms. She quickly found some and gulped them down. She looked out into the sky and spotted another bird, also pecking over the meadow, a familiar one. It was an egret who had once eaten a toad who had been Father Callahan. She called to it in her mind, and it turned its beak towards her. "I gave you something once," she said. "I need it back now." The bird found it deep in its gizzard, and with some gesticulations, a bulge traveled up its neck and it emerged, green and slimy on the ground at Violet's feet. As she reached it with her beak, she became Violet the witch again. The toad tried to hop away before she could orient herself, but she picked it up in both of her hands and carried it towards the steeple in the distance. It struggled to escape, but Violet's grip was strong. When she reached it, the oaken front doors were propped open as they sometimes were on warm and sunny days like this one. When she entered, all the girls were in uniform, seated in the pews. Mother McLeese scolded them from the pulpit. "If you can't motivate yourselves to study as a woman of God should, then it becomes my job to motivate you," she was saying. She seemed about to continue at length, but was distracted when she saw Violet in her pink dress, holding a toad in her hands. "Violet Ivy," she said, "do not bring that animal into this church." Violet did not reply. In a moment, she reached the pulpit. Perhaps shocked to silence, the nun stepped aside. Violet held the frog out with both arms so all of them could see it. The girls had been chatty and squirmy as Mother McLeese spoke, but Violet had their attention. She raised her right hand over the toad that rested in her left. Light flashed from her palm against the animal, and it was transformed into Father Callahan. He was naked as he faced the congregation. She had thought it was harsh to let the bird eat him, but felt no less cruel now, though her intention was to spare him from her impulsive action. A few of the girls covered their eyes to avoid seeing him this way, but others pointed and laughed. Mother McLeese demanded order and made threats of punishment, but no one cared. Violet left the nude father and exited through the center aisle between the pews and out the door she had entered. The girls followed her outside. She went back towards the meadow, and the children followed. A little ginger-haired girl took her hand. "Are you really a witch?" the girl asked. "I feel like one," Violet answered. The girls surrounded her. Their adoration made her self-conscious. She had never felt so idolized. Mother McLeese was approaching them now. Father Callahan was stumbling behind her, now clothed in shirt and pants. She had done what she needed to here, and it was time to leave. They wanted something from her, but she felt she had little to give. "What should we do?" one of them asked. "Decide for yourself. Don't be afraid," Violet said. She transformed into a bird again. She stretched her wings, and the children leaped up and down, waving and screaming as she lifted herself into the air. In a moment, they were all far behind her. She knew where she was going without meaning to. She flew into the foothills of the mountain range she had wandered before the fire that took her away, and into the little valley where her home and her parents once were. She landed in a shady spot where they had once picnicked and played in the grass, rolling over the little hills and laying on her back in the soft green grass to watch the clouds. Her parents rested her now. She became human as she landed in front of the 2 stones that marked their graves. She had never seen them before. She could just make out the words carved in the stones in the day's fading light. Alasdair Ivy, a man of passion, her father's read. Lisbeth Ivy, a woman of art, was engraved on her mother's. Long shadows of trees stretched over herself and her parents' markers. The air became frigid, and her breath shone frosty. She was shivering as tears formed in her eyes. She blocked out the cold and focused on the stones. She tried to remember what their faces looked like and how it had felt to be close to them. She had no photos. Everything had been destroyed in the fire. Her mother was auburn-haired like her daughter. Her father farmed the lands all day, but in the evenings he would sit in his favorite chair with a cup of tea or a pipe after Mom went to bed. He spent hours reading by the light of his lamp, and often she would sit in his lap and drift asleep as he read. She couldn't remember their faces, but in her imagination, they were the perfect mixture of her. She had felt real love then, and that's how she knew she hadn't since. Her cat, an orange tabby called Orla, brought her an injured bird one day. Its wing was broken, but she wanted to make it well. She picked up the pitiful creature and cradled it against her chest, thinking it needed warmth from the cool autumn air. In a moment, it was squirming against her, and when she relaxed her grip for an instant, it flew away between her hands. Her mother came outside just as the bird was taking flight. Orla brought me a bird, and I thought its wing was broken. But when I picked it up, it flew away, Violet said. It must have only been stunned, her mother said. But Violet had seen the wing. It had been broken and drooping from the pitiful thing's body. A few days later, Orla approached with a bird again. This time, it made sure it had finished the job. The thing's head flopped freely from its body, the neck broken clean. It was the same bird. She recognized its gray and white plumage, the shape of its beak, and a scar where the wing was broken. The cat purred and proudly rubbed itself against her ankles. You're a bad kitty, Violet scolded. I made it better, and you killed it. Orla nuzzled her, and Violet couldn't stay angry. The night of the fire must have occurred soon after. She dreamed that the bird had come back to life and crashed itself against her window as she slept. She heard the thump its body made as it smacked against her window, followed by the crack of the pane and the shattering of glass. When she woke, her window was in fact broken. Jagged pieces lay piled on the floor. A thunderstorm raged outside, and a blinding flash of lightning illuminated the house for a moment as thunder roared at almost the same instant. She sat up in her bed and smelled smoke. It poured from under her bed in billowy clouds. Flames crackled at her doors. To leap from her second-story window was scary, but staying in the burning house was scarier. The smoke beyond her door was too thick to venture into. Her bedroom door collapsed, and the fire spread inside her room. Her only escape was through the flames and out the window. She felt the figure before she saw it. It chilled her even through the fire. It was standing over her, tall and featureless, shimmering in and out of her vision. It offered a black hand, and she had no choice but to take it. In the next moment, they were flying through the broken window and into the night. They went above the trees and the storm's swirling clouds. They came down near this place where she now stood. He dropped her there where she could see her home burning to the ground. She sat cross-legged without moving for the rest of the night. Eventually, she heard the sirens of a fire truck, but there was only smoldering wood left to be extinguished. She didn't move until after the sun rose. She couldn't return to the house's ruins. She knew her parents were dead. She walked down the road from her home until she was exhausted and famished. She spotted a church with its doors open when she reached town. She went inside to rest on the pews. A group of nuns were gathered there in prayer. One came to sit with her. Violet had nothing to say, but the woman brought her water and bread, followed by a chocolate bar. She was so kind that eventually she told the woman what had happened. Her family's house had burned down in the night, but she had escaped out the window. She said nothing of the figure. The woman introduced herself as Sister Jackie, and she took her to the police station. Violet learned what she already knew. Her parents were killed in the fire. She didn't know what to do after that. Sister Jackie took Violet to her home, but said she couldn't keep a child. Her heart was bad, and so were her back and her knees. But she could find her a place at the orphanage. 2 nuns soon arrived at Sister Jackie's to take her there. She had almost nothing to pack, so she sat in the spacious back seat of a long black car, gazing out the window at the countryside until the orphanage came into sight. They entered through an iron gate and parked outside marble steps that led to a tall oaken door flanked by marble pillars with a portrait of Jesus above the carved letters of the institution's name. To Violet, it felt like the nuns were guards bringing her to prison to serve penance for the sin of letting her parents perish. In her time there, she never lost that feeling's conviction. She was free from it now. It was strange she never thought it through like this before. She became distracted by a coldness that chilled her back. The figure was beside her again, its elongated fingers around her shoulders, pressing her against its frigid body. She hated its familiarity. The ground fell beneath them. Bits of soil and rocks dropped, and they followed them into an endless white space. Where she had been standing so solidly moments before became an infinite distance away. The figure was the solid one here, and she was ephemeral, twinkling like a distant star. There seemed to be no end to it. She wondered if her fate was to fall through it forever. She decided not to think, because thinking only created fear. She focused on the feel of the figure's hand. It was cold, the kind of cold worlds without suns must know. She wanted to let it go, but it was frozen to hers. "What do you need from me?" she asked it in her mind. An image came to her. It was a red circle from which 3 white hands emanated. The hands' palms faced up, waiting to be touched. "What is that? What does it mean?" It gave no answer. They dropped through the white space in silence. Nothing lay below her. She kept speaking to it. There was nothing else to do, and she wanted to understand. "What are you?" "A shadow," it said. "A shadow can't hold my hand," she said. It said nothing. "How old are you?" she asked. "I have no age," it said. She tried to think of a good question, maybe one that would get it talking. "What's your first memory?" she asked. It didn't immediately answer, but when she had given up, it did. My master's head was silhouetted against the sun behind him, and when he moved from its light, I saw him for the first time. Golden hair and eyes like crystals. He was a joyous man, constantly singing in his ethereal voice. I was his shadow. We were forever attached. It did. My master's head was silhouetted against the sun behind him, and when he moved from its light, I saw him for the first time. Golden hair and eyes like crystals. He was a joyous man, constantly singing in his ethereal voice. I was his shadow. We were forever attached. We loved one another. I delighted in his light, and he rested in my darkness. Together we passed the ages. We wandered through many worlds. He was a high being, and I was his fierce protector. He was brought to tears by sunsets and comets flaring through space in their fierce and powerful beauty. I was the cold essence inside of him that made him ruthless when it suited him. I was his perfect complement, and we were happy and prosperous. But I did not know there was a loneliness in him no shadow could feel. He believed that only the woman whose face he saw in a supernova's glow could. From the moment he saw her, he wanted nothing except to be with her. Her face shone even through the cosmic beams of an exploding sun. Dazzling yellow eyes flashed at him from across space, and he pursued her. She danced away before he reached her and flew at the speed of light. He followed, and they danced across a galaxy like orbitless comets until she finally let him catch her on a warm ocean world so thick with clouds it was as if they were swimming in them. They were together after that. The world was lifeless and barren when they came, but the heat of their love brought it life. Plants of every color and shape sprouted from the ground. Animals of every description soon swam, ran, and flew over the landscape. They lived in bliss, and he forgot about his shadow. But I did not forget about him. She became restless after a time because it was her nature. One night, she left him. She disappeared into the cosmos, and when he found himself alone, his grief ran so deep that everything upon the world began to die. He wanted to lay down and die himself, but I did not let him. Go get her, I said. She is your woman. Go get her and bring her home. But if she doesn't want me, how will I keep her? She does want you. She only needs to be reminded of your manhood. For too long, you have lived too comfortably, and it has made you soft. She has lost all respect for you. He had not noticed me for so long, but now he listened to me. His face grew hot with fury. Fire burst from the skies and spread across the land. He thrust from the world, rockets streaming from his feet, burning with righteous anger. I went with him, reflected by the sun of that world, until he had left it to search for his love. He found her finally. She had found a new world more lush with life than even theirs. She stepped forth from a mountain cave, and he faced her. I was his shadow stretching over her in the early twilight, with the setting sun at his back. I told him to take her then, but he was too weak. Why did you leave me? He asked. I wanted to go, she said. Are you trying to prevent me? Take her, I told him. Talk later. But he insisted on patience. Why must you go? He asked. I only want to understand. I hated his pleading voice. I was restless. I wanted change, he said. I will stay here with you. You can have your change, and we can still be together. She hesitated, reluctant to tell the whole truth. I'm sorry, she said. I have found love here. Love? But I am your love. A woman stepped forth from the cave then. She wasn't a being of power like my master. She was barely better than an animal, a lowly native of that world. This is your love? He asked. He couldn't keep the scorn from his voice. When I found her here, I knew true love for the first time, she said. For the first time? Never with me? Not like this. She put her arm around the woman, so small in comparison, but we saw that she loved her as she said, strange as it was. My master had a sickness then. A vertigo passed over him so that he thought he would fall through this world and emerge on the other side. I took advantage. Maybe now he would listen to me. Take her now, I told him. She has lost her senses. Push aside this pet. It is of no consequence. He began to boil. The air around him simmered. Take her, I told him once more. With one arm, he grasped her, and when the pet defended her, he turned it to ashes with a touch. She cried out, but he did not release his grip. He took her back to the world where they had lived in harmony for so long. He thought they could return to their former life, but saw soon that they never would. She hated him now. She said she would rather die than be with him. I told him he was better off without her. He said he would never again listen to my cursed advice. He should have let her go, but it was me, his shadow, who had made him incinerate her pet, and now she would forever hate him. He kept her bound in a deep underground cave while he waited for her insanity to pass. He would let her go, he decided, but he couldn't now. She was not stable. He left her there alone most of the time. When he was near, she screamed abuse at him. He was a murderer, a cruel and selfish man who she hated with her entire soul. She wished she had burned him in the supernova's light that made her. It was the honesty in her words that hurt him. He blamed me for all of it. He did not recall how I had always protected him. I had been his most faithful friend. One morning, he went down into the cave, and when he did not immediately hear her usual accusations, he imagined she was asleep. But when he came to the place he had bound her, she was gone. The bindings he had forged lay broken in the dirt. He ran from the cave and blasted off into space to the world he had found her. That had to be the place she had gone. He did not find her, but he found the crater in the world's crust where she had hurled herself. She had collided into it with such force that no part of her was left intact. She could never be whole again. He roamed the world in search of some small part of her, but it was in vain. I could not console him, although I tried. You never needed her, I told him. She held you back. Now, without her encumbrance, you may fully realize your greatness. I hate you, Shadow, he said. You have caused me to lose everything, and I will leave you here with her now and never return. You cannot leave me, I told him. I am your shadow, and we can never be apart. You are mistaken, evil thing, he said. He reached inside of him somehow and pulled me from the pit of his stomach and out of his mouth. He held me in his giant hand, and I was exposed. I believed I held power, and now knew it was all illusion. You will ruin me no more, he said. He ripped away our connection. It seared me like hot, jagged metal. The pain is a black surge that never relents. He tossed me to the dirt in disgust and disappeared into space. I wanted to plead with him, but I had no voice. I was a flat thing without form, hardly a thing at all, and I could do nothing but float between spaces with my endless pain. They fell in silence for a while as she digested its story. This completes chapter 7 and 8 of the reading of my book, The Myth of Budda. I will be releasing the next 2 chapters very soon. Thank you for listening, and please like and subscribe.